Well, hello and welcome back. Yes, we are back at Developreneur, the Building Better Developers podcast. Season 28, where AI shows the light on the cracks because they are out there. But right now, first, let's introduce ourselves. My name is Rob Broadhead, one of the founders of Developreneur, also the founder of RB Consulting, where we help you avoid expensive technology mistakes before they happen. We get you some clarity in figuring out where you're going so that you can get there with the right amount of time and investment. Good thing and bad thing. Good thing is when I'm doing this, it is towards the end of a day. It has been a great day. It's been a great start to my week when I'm doing this, loving this. Just one of those, you're like, you get there, you're like, this has been a day well lived. The bad thing is it's the end of the day, and so I'm like a little bit slap happy, and so I'm ready to wind this one down. But more importantly, I'm going to wind Michael up and let him go introduce himself.
Hey everyone, my name is Mike Moss, one of the co-founders of Develpreneur, Building Better Developers. I'm also the founder of Envision QA, where we create reliable, tailored solutions that help you work smarter, scale faster, and stay in control of your business. Good thing, bad thing. Good thing, video game guy. Got a new season. Hopefully it will be good. Arc Raiders kicks off tomorrow, I believe. Downside, the toxicity of the game has gotten really bad with the PvP side of things. So hopefully they've got that fixed going into the new season.
Which game was this?
Arc Raiders.
Arc Raiders. Okay, cool. I'm just catching up with Pac-Man. I'm way behind. My gamer tag disappeared long ago, I think. But that's okay because we're about to step back into a conversation that is phenomenal. And I don't say that very often. This has really been a fun one. This is one that is definitely a little bit very timely. This is one of those, I don't know how well this will be evergreen because 6 months from now, AI will be so different. But in this time, as we're talking through this stuff, this is really valuable. This is going to help you, I think, be one of those that is one of the winners out of this season of change. So I don't want to pause anymore before we dive back into our conversation with Danny. And so here we go, right where we left off.
Given the direction kind of all this is going, banks are trying to keep up. A lot of banks are consolidating. A lot of banks are trying to figure out the whole AI thing and how they're going to, build their venture capital, help, bring customers in and that. But then on the other side, we have like the GoFundMe's. We have the angel investors. We have, I forget the gaming site where people go out to get funding to help build their games, things of that nature. It's kind of funny with AI, it almost feels like there might slowly start to be a shakeup of the venture capital, the money side, where there are more avenues where people can kind of dip their toes in to get the money they need to get going. How do you see that evolving with the venture capital? Are you already seeing that, or do you foresee this kind of coming?
1,000%. I think I think they see it too. Because they're expecting stuff later too, and so I think they just. I don't think they have their own challenges as market participants on the venture side, as far as how they are going to approach their role in the future when it's more established or more clear of what that should look like. But I think they see it. I think they are becoming less necessary as far as just deployment. And I think just like if I can I'll posit sort of what I think based on what I'm seeing and how I'm approaching stuff. And that is, I think venture, instead of just having VCs, and they all basically say this, and I don't want to clown on them. I've worked with venture and I love them and they're a necessary part, but a lot of empty promises, a lot of gas bags, a lot of stuff that is not true. They'll tell you they'll help you. They'll tell you they'll accelerate you. All they really are trying to do is max extract. A lot of max extraction and ignorance baiting, right? They take the ignorance and they just take as much as they can from you, and they set you up for failure. And so I think that's not everyone, but that is certainly prevalent in certain parts of the capital formation markets. And so I think they are, instead of that being not true, I think the market will rationalize to that being the future of venture. I think they're actually going to have to accelerate. I think you can't just bring money. The value, because if the things that were, and I know this is so buzzy, but it's true. If the things that were scarce, right? Okay, so you have money, you're able to, people trust you to give you money so you can allocate it, and then you have purchasing power, right? Like an insurance company. So that's, if the ability to pool and capital, pool capital in that way is much easier now, okay, which it is. And then if information asymmetry is also collapsed, and so what you know is less valuable, and then who you know is also less valuable, although it's still valuable. That one's probably a little harder, but still. So what do you, like Office Space, what would you say you do here? You know, like, so I think they're actually going to have to do the things they've always said, which I think is going to be great. So the best VCs, I think, already do that. They're going to actually help you. They're going to put you in the right room. They're going to have internalized teams that can actually help subsidize and bootstrap you. They will help with your token budgets, knowing that some of them are going to get blown on things that don't work, but that is the path to product discovery. They'll have to take bets on good founders and know that not everything they do will be right. And so I think they will have to be more dynamic, and actually kind of get their hands dirty, especially if they want to get in early to get those venture style returns. I think that's exciting for most people, because the inverse of that is that we all have access to venture sized returns earlier, right? A lot of those, most returns come from like 0 to 100 million. And so I think we've been historically boxed out of it. And it's been one of my missions to kind of open that up for myself and for my peers and other people in the value stack that maybe haven't always gotten it right. And so I think we can capture that now, because we can take stuff further. And so if the money wants to come back down into that and be and participate in it, then they will have to start bringing more value that's totally different than what they have before. And so I think the future is more diversified, hybrid, incubator, accelerator, almost co-founder type components. Like, we're going to come in early. We love your ideas. You have good pedigree. You've built these things. Let us just seed you with, 100 grand. And then with the idea that we're going to scale up into the check size we want. And so I think it's going to be really cool. They're going to figure it out. It's going to be very helpful. It's going to be a net benefit for builders is my sense, but who knows? But that's very plausible. What do you think?
So I want to take this back towards the AI component a little bit, because we've kind of set up where venture capital is kind of going, but we haven't really talked about where AI can disrupt this. So one of the themes of this season is, exposing the cracks of AI. A lot of people looking for venture capital or looking for capital are going to go online. They're going to go look for podcasts. They're going to look for information. Well, now they're going to turn to AI. And then a lot of them are going to be like, well, AI is going to do it for me. I don't need to go find this. Or AI could potentially lead them down the wrong path on where they should go or how they should build their venture capital. How do you manage that? How do you help people avoid that risk that eventually is going to come from some form of misinformation, either from AI or the web, or just, but I see it escalating exponentially with the use of AI.
Yes, 1000%. It's almost like we can't escape it. Like, that is just a risk we have to design around now, and that we're all going to fall victim to it, almost like a baseball players. I think we all probably just have to be comfortable hitting 300 and being like, that's going to be a great job. If I can hit 300, I'm gonna be okay. You know what? I might be a Hall of Famer if I can hit it, right? And so I think it's inevitable that happens. And kind of like what you how you approached it, right, at the beginning, Rob, when you mentioned sort of like the value of like design, how important it is that you take maybe a little, I call it strategic patience. Take a little more time to relook at what you're doing, how it is built, how it is designed, and how it will work under strain, and how and war game it, red team it. How do you actually? What will it do, and what will you do when those things happen? The foreseeable things, right? Because the unforeseeable will happen, but at the very least, we can be prepared for the foreseeable, done right, and if we slow down a little bit. And so I think we need to approach how we operate in that way, the same way. We have to really, before we even type anything into a computer, wherever you're doing, whether you're a dev in a CLI or whether you are just a non-technical person working in cloud code, whatever that might be. The premise is the same. What are you actually doing? And doing that over and over again, and have a relationship with time and priorities, and designing our own strategy such that we can have feedback loops back. Oh, that was a big waste of time. Okay, we need bumpers, basically. I think we just need bumpers at every unit of our time, whether that is the hour, the day, the week, the month, the year, the multi-year, the macros. We got to have bumpers. Feedback loop after feedback loop in a fractal scaling structure. I think that's the only way we can scale, because now we can scale ourselves much easier. But we can still break if we don't design it correctly. And so we need to have feedback loops that keep us in track. I don't think we can, if we try to avoid them, we'll fall into paralysis by analysis. I think we have to accept that the cost of doing business is we're going to be wrong on what we just did a bunch of times. And then just know that sooner so it doesn't create catastrophic harm. Easier said than done, but I think that's the right approach.
Well, and I think that's your earlier question was about, the idea of being productive. We've used before, are you being productive or are you being busy? And I think a lot of people, there's this false productivity because it's like, hey, I spent a weekend and I created an app or whatever it is. But it's like, what does that app do? What does it serve? Does it help you? Does it help anybody else? Or did you just spend a lot of time? Or you just playing a game, basically? And I think that's a huge piece of what we're going to see going forward. That's one of those values now, because, like you said, everything's shrunk down. So business has always been about failures. But what is it? 1 in 4 and 5 businesses fail, or whatever the number is. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. But it's like they fail all the time. What we're getting is a very quick cycle. So now you can fail and fail and fail. It's sort of the fail fast that people talked about, but it is. You can go and you can give it solid effort and figure it out. And the bonus with this is, like, now you can do this and you can learn from it. You're not just failing fast to fail fast and go, oh, that doesn't work. You're actually able to do it and learn why it didn't work. So you can say, okay, yeah, I failed here, but now I can learn from this and I can do better the next time and the next time and the next time, which I think changes the whole game and goes to the other one I wanted to bring up was the need for capital. I'm like, you said the magic word there. Capital is an accelerant. AI is an amplifier. It's basically the same thing. And so now, and as you were talking through that, I was thinking about, I was like, if these days, it used to be you needed money, you could short it by doing virtual assistants or something like that, or buy, hire cheap labor and things like that. You could find ways to make the money go further. Now, it's even more so because VAs have almost disappeared as far as, like, AI can do a lot of that stuff and better. So I was thinking about it, and all the noise that's out there, part of it's because everybody now can do their own content. They can be their own marketing. They can do their own branding. They can do their own sales. They can create proposals. They can create marketing stuff. They can create websites. They can create app. All of this stuff that it used to take lots and lots of money and lots of coordination. You can have one person, you can have a AI solopreneur sit down and crank something out in a weekend or two. And they're off and running. They don't have any of the overhead. So all of that cost structure that it used to be, if you made a SaaS product, you had, whatever it is, 2 to 5 years of development costs invested in it and all this other stuff. If you had, if a $500,000 product to create suddenly becomes a $5,000 product to create, then, the opportunities, the upsides are big. Yes, you got to keep fighting. And that brings it to, I really like the idea that you started drilling into, is like, I think while this is asking developers and product owners it's holding them their feet to the fire a little more. They've got to be more real. They can't just wing it, because now the capital side is saying, well, wait a minute. We need to make sure that this is you can actually do this, that you can keep doing it, that you're not just winging it. You're not just BSing your way through it. But I think this is it's on the other side too. It's now saying, look, if you can't bring me more than just money, I can find replacements for that. I don't need it the same way I used to. So I think it's going to start bringing them together. You're going to find investors. The ones that are going to be the big investors that will be really successful, I think, are the ones that are going to be practically co-founders. I think, some of these accelerators and incubators and things like that are going to be, I think, a bigger deal, because now You're going to get everybody involved. You're going to be able to be there from the start. You're going to be able to take them in that potentially very short period of time to something very big. And I think it's going to call everybody to, out a little bit and saying, okay, it's time for everybody to up their game. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, I just will say plus one. Look, everything you said is totally correct. And I think one of the biggest challenges is what do we do with that information, right? So challenge number one is, I think, getting to that point, right? It's like, I think we're at the stage of the cycle where I don't think most people are at that point that you just said. Like you just outlined, those are really big differences. Like they basically, everything you said, if we assume is correct, I do believe that to be true. But what needs to flow downstream to how you're even doing stuff. And then that fundamentally changes every end market. So everything is completely different. And so I think what you just said could be its own episode as far as what does that mean for every single market participant. But I will say that I am an optimist. I think that this is fundamentally like mass democratization. I think people that have been structurally kept from doing stuff and from capturing value in a lower down the stack, that were structurally kept out of it by old market structures. Those old market structures, what they rationalized around, it all moved, and so now we can all do it. But I think it requires a radical change in how we approach what we even think we should be doing. Like, let me take it, because I know you guys are speaking to devs, right? I think the same thing comes to a dev. I've worked with devs. Sometimes it has been incredibly challenging to find a dev that also has the business mind, right? But that was always one of those hard things that they could always bootstrap further. I'm going to go build. I'm going to lock myself up for like a week, and then it's kind of black box. Being on the other side, being the non-technical side, whether that is a co-founder or being on the advisory side, right, or on the deployment side. The devs oftentimes held a lot of control, right, and they still do, but also what they are doing, other people can take further as well. And so the market is also re-rationalizing. But what that means is, I think the devs, in order to capture the moment in a more relevant manner for the listeners, I think get yourself an idea guy. Be less resistant to it, and get yourself someone that has good ideas, that maybe isn't technical, that does challenge it. Get comfortable with challenging it. Get comfortable with doing stuff differently. Bring what you have to the table. Have someone be the business guy. Bring them on earlier, I think, because if you need to have a non-technical person that speaks human and is so that you can do your thing. And I'm not trying to diminish the developers, right? But I do my generalized is that I've seen the people who can't do what I'm saying. It's their failure state lasts much longer. It's almost like a death throw, because they just can't ever accept feedback, and they can't ever bring on that like other co-founder, and they can't ever cede control. But that I've seen that take 3 years, and they just burn through money, right? And so I think if we can accept that now, it's actually a competitive advantage and maybe a necessity for your own success as a dev to get a small team around you, like an idea person, and maybe like that what you just mentioned, that venture co-founder accelerator, because they also do legal stuff. They do a lot for you. They don't just do the money, right? They like help you with the structuring. They make sure that everything looks good to the lawyers at the capital side, right? There's a whole lot that goes on in there that's not sexy, but that is critical, right? And so find yourself that, because you can bootstrap yourself with someone who can do those things with a little bit of equity. If you don't need to have like 95% and you're willing to do it, and you have a high trust environment, get yourself a high trust idea person and some sort of utility replacement for that venture co-founder that will handle your legal, that will handle the equity issuances, because the dev can now take it further, right? What's more exciting if you're trying to incentivize people with equity, right? And you don't need to spend all the money now. If you have a team, you can build something, be like, this is my idea. What do you think? Well, from the business perspective, this is what I don't like. This is what it should look like, because these are the risks downstream on the user acquisition side. This is where you'll need money. Let's design, right? It's what you guys do. We need kind of like people like you on the team, right? And people like me and people around you that can future-proof and that you can rally around. You can take stuff further with prototyping and visually show it. I'm using it a lot to visually show people stuff. Well, like my competencies are expanded because now I can show them. And so I can create, it's a bad app, but I can create something that shows what I'm thinking. because people get better feedback when they're looking at something that's not good, right? That's great. And so I think if you can take stuff further, incentivize people further, you don't need that money. That's that's the how, right? The how is you can get those incentives, take things far enough to incentivize the people around you to invest their time with equity, and then make it also structured so that they can actually do it. So don't demand like full time, right? Leverage advisory. There's risks in doing that wrong, but I think that's like the how it happens. Everything you said, I think, does move into a how, and it comes into bootstrapping incentives and taking things further, self-awareness, design, and then kind of the feedback loops and preparation that we've been hammering on.
Yeah, I love that idea of, and see that as, and we've seen this now for a while, is it seems like everything keeps contracting. So those feedback loops get tighter and tighter. And that means that I think we're running out of time, but one other thought on this, is this going to change the thresholds, the money amounts that investors are looking at? Because in the past, I mean, certain things, if you're building X, you need to ask for Y. There's certain things where it's like, if you're building this thing, it's this is a 500,000, this is a 2 million, this is a 20 million. There's certain things that they would fall into these buckets. But now, when you can contract this down and you can actually get some feedback, and particularly bootstrapping a lot sooner, so that you can get something out there, you can start bringing revenue. Is that changing, some of those thresholds and where sort of those layers that investors are looking for?
Yes, 1,000%. I think that there's a couple elements to that, just from my perspective. One is every company I've talked to, whether you're a startup or whether you're raising for the third, fourth time, whatever that might be, I think most people don't think about dilution. It's almost like student loans. Like they just don't. But it's huge. You have to, like, the minimum viable dilution is not a mental model enough founders have, I don't think. Which is, how much money do I need that is still de-risked and an accelerant, but that is minimally dilutive? And so I think there was limited levers to that approach, and so I think that's why people often overlooked it, because the market was such that sometimes you just get to the point where whatever the terms are, you just take them. Like that's the reality of it. It's like, I've talked to guys, and I've been on teams, and these are not good off. These are very extractive terms, and they just got more extractive. Why? Because no one else is giving us money, and so this is what we're at, right? And so, so you sometimes, but that's to say that I think the capital markets are still, like capital formation markets, are still operating in an old power dynamic. And I think that's going to change. I think we're going to have a lot more capability to surgically identify how much we actually need. And the information asymmetry is in some ways going to move over to the founder side, because they can be more surgical. You don't need like 1.5 right off the bat. You might actually just need like 150 grand, if that. Maybe less. Who knows? You have to actually know what is possible and how can you what the use of funds are going to be. The other side of the market, though, again, they're going to quickly catch up, and I think they're already expecting this. And I'm going to kind of echo what you mentioned earlier. I forget which one of you did. I'm sorry, but about it was a good point about how you can't rely on the AI, right? And it looks good, but if you're doing your use of funds right now through an interface for a foundation model, right? It's going to give you old SaaS stuff. Oh, these are my benchmarks. VC is going to look at that and be like, you don't need this much money. Why do you need this much money? You don't need this team right now. Aren't you AI native? Yeah, yes. You have to look like the thing that you're saying you are, right? Because they need money. They are giving you money to get money back on paper so that they can go get more money. And then if it works, it works. But that's what they really need, is they need the paper gain. If I'm being reductionist, but for the most part, as a mental model of someone raising, you have to deliver them a paper gain, right? Everyone knows that it could not work, but it's got to look good on paper for some amount of time if they're going to give you money, and you have to communicate that to them. And so, what you do with the money and what you're telling them you're doing with it is so important, and you cannot rely on AI right now for it, because it's using the predictive value of what it's using. That's not the same. It's brand new. And so I think that's one of the more challenging parts. I'm trying to tackle it literally right now. We were looking at our use of funds, and as we were taking it further, we just got signed with a Valley firm, and so they're helping us out here too, because that is an information asymmetry. What are they actually expecting on the use of funds, knowing that you need much less, right? Mm-hmm. So I think that is one point that I think on how it can impact both sides of the venture capital markets.
As I mentioned, we have blown right through our time here. So, and this has been great. I've loved this conversation. We could definitely, like you said, I think we could have a couple episodes and just keep on going through several of the things we touched on and weren't able to circle back to. But that being said, what is people are out there listening, if they'd like to learn more about you or hear more about what you're working on, what's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
Yeah, so I just published a book that addresses sort of where hard moved downstream on how we can approach operating architecture, how we can approach what we're doing with a mental model and framework so that we can sustain scale with a smaller unit and take things further. And that's called The Unfirm. The new unit of scale is you. And so that's available now on online, on Amazon, and anywhere you can get books as an ebook, a hardcover, and a softcover. I do keep up through Twitter on Augmented Things, AUGMEENTED things. And so that is, we do companion pieces. We do amplify our builders, doing a lot of work, pushing people out, trying to kind of get permissionless distribution. Distribution is getting really challenged. So been building a distribution engine for myself and for my teams to be able to bring what you just said. We have to be able to provide value for what is now hard. And so Augmented Things is where I communicate with my team to other people. And so if you think I'm crazy, you love it, whatever, come engage. I don't care. I don't need to be right. We just got to be talking about stuff.
Oh, that's the best kind. Yeah. It works out well for me because I'm always right and Michael never is. So like it balances out. We're like right there.
There it is.
But what I am right about is that we are out of time. So those of you who are listening, thank you so much. We appreciate you and you guys hanging out with us. This has always been great. Looking forward to more of this in the future. We are not done with this season. We have got more coming, more great conversations, more cracks being exposed by AI. But until then, go out there and have yourself a great day, a great week, and we will talk to you next time. And bonus, so, wow, we've got there's a couple of things. So what's either a challenge that you have for our listeners or maybe a bonus nugget you have, something like some sage advice you would have for these, entrepreneurs and side hustlers and developers that are trying to figure out, do the next, Twitter or whatever it is they're trying to build.
So I think this has been one of my favorite conversations, by the way. It's always great to have people like you guys who can push concepts further to where the substance is more easy. The substance is better for people. And so I think a lot of what I would have said, I think came out organically just because you guys were able to pull it out through the conversation. And so I think what I would add though to people is relook at everything you thought was possible. I think the hardest thing is that smart people, right, think they know they're right, and that has been a valuable asset, and it's probably gotten you here. We have to accept that what we knew, we're going to end up losing to people that are ignorant about it if we don't update it, because we're going to put up walls that aren't there anymore. So there's a risk of phantom walls is what I'm saying. I think take a look at what you're doing, how you're doing it. Don't set up walls and don't assume that the constraints that kept you from going further are there. They're not. It doesn't mean it's easy. Things are hard, maybe harder, but you can now do it. And that's what's radically different is you're not structurally kept out by those walls. But what does that mean in practice? There's no blueprint for it. It is hard. It's harder than it's ever been. But you can go get the upside, and getting upside was always a risk transfer to the people willing to do really hard things. So you can go do hard things, go do them. Don't be scared by hard. Know it's possible. Just relook at everything.
I love that relook at everything because that's something that this has. It is. We say it now, and it seems like it's fluff, but it's true. As AI is a game changer, and so I think there's a lot of those. There's a lot of these rules that we have made for ourselves because we're like, well, that's the way it's always been. We don't need to look at that again because nothing's changed. But actually, everything's changed, and it is worth it to go back and look at those those assumptions, those things that you just know, or those things you're like, well, it's not worth reviewing it. And spend a little time and review it, and you'll see what can happen. I think I constantly will tell people the best thing to do with AI is take whatever idea you gave to them and then say, okay, tell me where it's wrong. Tell me what I'm missing. Tell me what I should have asked. Those kinds of things is pick it apart, and you will find that there are a lot of opportunities out there. There's a lot of low-hanging fruit that we have not tackled yet. because we assume that we don't need to. We're like, that's fine. That's the way it is. That's just something I'm gonna have to deal with. And I think that is some of the best wisdom we can give right now, and especially in this time of just constant disruption. So. Thank you so much for your time. This has been great. It's really awesome to just be able to throw something out there and have somebody just launch and just go in a lot of areas that we like to go as well, and hitting on the important things that is beyond the fluff and the marketing and the hype. But it's like, no, this is the on the ground reality that people are dealing with, and it's not. You're not the one person that doesn't know AI and your business is about to fail because you're not doing AI. It's everybody else is figuring this stuff out too. And I think that helps. Like, I love the idea of the level playing field. It does. It has really democratized a lot of stuff. And now we've got to figure out, okay, now that thing that you counted on, everybody has it. Now what do you do? And I think it's going to, some people are going to struggle more than they need to, but then other people are going to, skyrocket ahead because they're going to use the right accelerant. So, thanks so much. As I said before, we'll get links out to you before this goes live in a couple of weeks. I reached out to you on LinkedIn, and we'll reach out to you as we can. Also get you. I think we met you on Podmatch. Definitely would like to keep the conversation going. Probably reach out again sometime, and even if not for a podcast, it's just sort of like have a discussion just to see what you're seeing and where you guys are going. Talk a little bit more about what about your book maybe and some of that kind of stuff. And like I said, it's nice finding fellow travelers, as it were, in this world.
Yes, likewise. No, I would love that. This has been one of my favorite conversations. So, however, we can keep going on it, and then also I'd love to know kind of more about what you're doing with Develpreneur and what. I'm assuming there's other parts of your strategy too. So yeah, maybe we can carve out some time when it works for us to catch up again.
Definitely.
Not on a podcast, maybe just business. Like how can we transact together, or at the very least know what we're looking to do, so that we can help each other transact if there's nothing immediate.
100%. So definitely, we'll reach out. We'll keep in touch. We'll set something up and talk to you again soon. Then.
All right.
And if there's anything I can do between now and then to help you out, let me know.
Likewise. All right, fellas. Appreciate you. Sorry for going long.
Have a good one, Danny. Have a good day.
That's all right.
Bye.
Thank you.
Later.
Bye-bye.